Hi mates, in this tutorial I'll be learning how to make this trendy princess that short dress with welt pockets. If this looks like what you like to learn, then watch this video to the end. My name is Veronica Adams Eze. Welcome to Vera Adams YouTube channel. So here's the pattern paper I'll be working with. I've already gone ahead to draw the starting line, and from that line I'm marking the shoulder to nipple, which is 9 inches. I'll move ahead to mark shoulder to underbust, which is 12 inches, shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches, shoulder to hip, which is 24 inches, and then to the length of the dress, which is 34 inches. So I'll go ahead and draw straight lines out of these points. So right here I've gone ahead to do that, and I'm naming them, which is the bust line, underbust line, waistline, hip line, and also the length of the dress. Right here on the shoulder line, I'm going to go ahead to mark 2 inches. Yes, and this will serve as the point where the dart will be. The length of the dart is 4.5 inches. Right on that 4.5 inches, I'm going to go ahead to mark 2.5 inches, because you know the dart is not supposed to be straight, so that you have a slanty shape. So I'll go ahead to connect. Then I'll go ahead to take 1/2 inch on both sides. It's just in the same way that we take the regular darts. At this point, you can go ahead to take the neckline width plus 1 inch for the dart. Please make sure that you had 1 inch extra for the dart that you're taking. But somehow I really don't like the dart on the front piece at the neck part, so I'm going to be excluding that. But if you actually want the dart to be there, you can go ahead and do this. So right here I'll be marking the shoulder measurement, that's half of the shoulder measurement, and I'll be coming up by 1.5 inches from the bust line, and this will serve as the chest line. Right on the chest line I'll also go ahead to mark half of the shoulder measurement, and I'll connect it upwards to meet the shoulder line. I'll come down by 1 inch on this part, which is serve as the shoulder slope, and then I'll connect it to the 3 inches neckline. Right on the 3 inches neckline width, I'm going to go ahead, as you see me doing right here, to mark 1/2 inch above the initial shoulder line, and from that point I'll connect it as so. But I'm not going to be using the straight part of my ruler, but the slightly curved part. For the neck depth, I'm going to go ahead to mark 0.75 inches. Next thing, I'll go ahead to mark half of the nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5 inches, right on the chest line down to 2 inches above the hip line. I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust line and make a mark right there. And then on the waistline, I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides. And from that point, I'm going to connect upwards to meet the 1 inch that I came down by from the bust line. And I'll also extend it downwards to meet the 2 inches above the hip line. I'll then go ahead to connect these parts together, right from where the dart stopped to meet the midpoint of the armhole. On the chest line, I'll take 1/4 of the bust band measurement, which is 8 2/4. Right at this midpoint, I'm going to be on the armhole. I'm going to be taking 1/2 inch on both sides, half here, half there. That will give us a total of 1 inch. But when you take that, it's going to shorten the initial armhole length. So for that reason, you're going to go ahead to add 1 inch to the side. To avoid shortage when joining the side darts together, we'll also go ahead to elongate this part, the second part. Just increase it by 1 inch as well, and connect it to the new chest line measurement that we have, just as I'm doing right here. Now we can tighten the underbust area by taking 1/2 inch on this side and 1 inch on the other side. I'll go ahead and connect this to the dart leg on the waistline, as you're seeing me doing here. Now I can take the underbust measurement, that's a quarter of the underbust measurement, then I can add back the 1.5 inch for the dart. Also on the waistline, I'm taking a quarter of the waist measurement and I'm adding 1 inch for the dart as well. I'll move ahead to the hip line and I'll take a quarter of the hip measurement plus 2 inches. This is to create that shape on the hip line, that false hip shape. And I'll also take the same thing that I have on the hip line, I'll take it on the length of the dress. On this pattern paper, I'll go ahead to take the seam allowance and that will be 1 inch. So I'll take 1 inch all through from the chest line down to the length of the dress. Now it's time to start cutting. And we're going to start cutting from the bottom. Please pay attention to how I'll be cutting it out to avoid making mistakes on yours. Now that we're done with the drafting and the cutting of the front piece, let's move on to the back piece. So I've gone ahead to mark the lines just as we have on the front piece right here on the back piece. I'll be starting with the slope for the back. So for this back slope, I'll go ahead to take off 0.75 inch on the waistline and I'll connect it to meet the hip line and also to the chest line as you're seeing me doing here. I went ahead to also mark the half of the nipple to nipple measurements, that just as we did for the front piece, irrespective of the slope and the back. So as you can see right here, we still have 3.5, and I've also gone ahead to connect it to the mid part of the armhole. So right here I'm going to go ahead to take half of an inch still on the waistline, just in the same manner that we did for the front. I've gone ahead to take the bust pan measurement for the back. I also go ahead to take the under bust measurement plus half of an inch for the dart. On the waist, I'll take the waist measurement, then 1 inch for the dart. On the hip, I'll also go ahead to take the hip measurement plus 2.5 inches for the hip extension, and I'll also repeat the same on the gown length, just as we did for the front. I'll go ahead and connect these points together. Moving on to the neck part, I'll go ahead to mark 3 inches for the neck width, just as we did for the front, and right at that point go ahead to mark half of an inch upwards, and from that point we'll connect it right to meet the 1 inch shoulder slope, just as we did for the front piece. For the neck depth, we're going to mark 0.5 inch and we'll connect it right as you're seeing me doing here. Still on this pattern paper, we're going to go ahead to mark the zipper allowance. So from the top, I'm going to be marking 1 inch down to this part. Remember that we're going with the slopey slanted part, not the initial line. Just as we did for the front, we're going to add 1 inch seam allowance on the pattern paper, so right from the chest line to the length of the dress. Now that we're done with the drafting, we can start cutting out. Now that we're done drafting and cutting the back piece as well, it is time for us to cut it out on the fabric. Here's the fabric that I'll be using for this tutorial. I've gone ahead to use the pattern paper to cut out the fabric, and here's what it looks like. I went ahead to add 2.5 inches to the bottom of the dress because I realized that 34 inches is way too short for the person that I'm making this for, since I'm working with a very tall person. I added 1/2 inch along this side for the joining of the seam allowance, and also on the top part I added 1/2 inch also. I went ahead to remove the pattern paper, and here's the fabric itself, and I'm marking the wrong side so that I'll be able to differentiate the wrong side from the right side. I'll also go ahead to cut out the facing. I went ahead to fold the remnant of the fabric, and I'll use this to cut out the facing since I won't be using a lining for this dress. But if you want to use a lining, it's fine, you can go ahead to do that. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll be using this facing. This right here is for the back piece. I'll also go ahead to cut out the facing for the front as well. Once we're done with the cutting of this facing, we'll move on to cut out the pocket pieces for the Welt pocket. For the width of this pocket, we have 6 inches for both pocket 1 and pocket 2. And for the length of the pocket, it is placed on fold, we have about 6 2/4. That makes it about 12.5 inches when we open it up. And we can call this the first part of the pocket, which we can call the pocket bag. Here is the second part of the pocket, and we can call it the pocket flap. And on fold, it is measuring 3 inches. That means when we open it up, it will be 6 inches. So we have two sides of this as well. So for the length, we have 6 inches, just as the width. Rather, for the width, we have 6 inches, just as the width for the pocket bag. Right here is the final part of the pocket, and you can call this the pocket piece, and it is 1 inch on fold. Yes, and the width is also 6 inches. So everything that we have here is 6 inches. But for the pocket pieces, we have 4 pieces, unlike the pocket bag and the pocket flap, which you have just 2 pieces. You'll know the reason why later when we get to the sewing part. For the drafting of this sleeve, I went ahead to fold this pattern paper up, and then I marked the starting line, and from that point I'm marking 5 inches, which I'll go ahead to rule. The round armhole measurement I'm working with here is 16 inches, so I've gone ahead to mark half of 16 inches, that's 8 inches, and I connected it. Then coming down by 3 inches, I made a mark right there and connected it in the form of the shape of a sleeve. So I'm going to go and cross check the 16 inches, and I see that I have exactly 16 inches. From the hem of the sleeve, I'm going to go up by 2 inches and make a mark, and from that point I'm going to connect it in a slanted form, just as you're seeing me doing right here. For this part, I'm going to take the round sleeve measurement, which is 12 inches. 12 inches divided by 2 is 6 inches, and I've gone ahead to mark that. Now we can move ahead to cut it out, and this is what it looks like after we're done cutting. So now we can go ahead to cut this sleeve that we have on the pattern right on the fabric. So I've gone ahead to place this fabric on fold so that we can have 2 pieces at once. For the bottom of this sleeve, I'm going to go ahead to add 1 inch all around, and at the top I would have 1/2 inch around it. So for the sleeve as well, I don't want the seam to be visible on the right side, so I also go ahead to cut a facing for the sleeve. So cutting the facing for the sleeve, I'll go ahead to fold the remnant of the fabric like this, and then we trace the bottom part out, since it's the bottom part that will be turning in. So I'm going to cut it. Thank you for watching up to this point. I hope that you found it useful. Give it a thumbs up by clicking on the like button if you did, and if you are yet to subscribe, kindly do so. Join me in the sewing tutorial where we couple these pieces together. See you there. Bye.